Well, welcome to the first video in my new series, What Genealogists Need to Know About World War I and World War II Research. And today I want to quickly chat with you about why you need to verify what you read in the newspaper and why not every family story might be true. So I was contacted by an individual who was researching her grandfather's World War II service. And she said all she knew was what was in a newspaper article. And basically, the newspaper article gave some overall details, very general about the service, but made it clear that this veteran had been wounded, had broken a leg, had internal injuries, and also was the only survivor in the tank in which he was serving, which was hit. So that is great information to start with, but it's always important not to just take what you see in a newspaper or on Find a Grave or in a family story as full truth, because you really need to do the research and figure out what's what. So the big question here was, where do I find the information that tells me when he was wounded, who he was with, and how did he get out of the tank? So I did a little digging just to kind of see what was here. And I did encourage this individual to come take one of my military research classes because that would also help her learn more about the strategy and what records might exist out there. So my first place to go, of course, was Army Morning Reports, which exist on NARA catalog through December 44 as of the date of this recording, which is July 2026. And it just so happens that this individual was allegedly wounded before the end of 1944. So one of the first morning reports I came upon showed me that he was transferred out of his unit into a hospital unit, a detachment of patients, not for wounds, but for disease. So I thought that was interesting, but could have absolutely been related to a prior wound. So I went looking and I found no morning reports that gave me information on the wound. So I then went to look for hospital admission indexes. And I only found one for this veteran, and it was for his disease. Now, the disease was basically thrombosis. That was the second diagnosis, but the first diagnosis was related. And it's basically when you are in tight quarters in a tank or any kind of vehicle or situation for a long period of time, it can affect the circulation in your body. And it appears, based on this initial research, that he actually had a disease for circulation, which resulted in the removal of the bottom part of one of his legs. And then he was transferred through the hospitals and then shipped home to recover further. So, was there a wound? Based on my initial research, I don't think so. So, why would a newspaper article say that he had been wounded? Now, before you come at me, I want you to know that I've done quite a lot of research into this because I have my own family secrets around shame and guilt and other things related to the war. It has been my experience and my observation for 16 years doing my own research and talking to multiple people around the world that our veterans told a lot of stories for a lot of reasons. And one of the biggest reasons that they might have told a story that wasn't 100% true was out of shame or guilt. It could have been survivor guilt. It could have been shame, maybe in this case, over losing part of your leg to disease, which was a result very likely of your military service, but because it wasn't in the line of duty as we would expect it, then it wasn't as heroic. Now, you might say, well, that's complete garbage, and I would agree. But you have to look at it through the lens of World War II historical context. Who were the heroes? Well, if you watch TV or you go to Europe, it's the Band of Brothers, right? The 101st Airborne won the whole war over the whole world. But really, the propaganda was the guys on the front line and the support roles and all of those people who may have had something happen to them because of a result of their service. They were not seen maybe as much as a hero as the other guys. So there could have been a lot of shame around that. And it could be a reason why the story was told that way and then reported to the newspaper that way. Because let's be honest, if you are in an overseas unit and something happens to you, you can write home and say whatever you want. Now, if there is an actual telegram that says he was wounded, not just moved for disease, then that opens up a whole new layer of research. Now, I did not go through every possible morning report to find this guy. I was not hired for this project. I was asked some questions. And when I'm asked a question, I usually go and do a little digging. So, is it possible that he was wounded? Yes. Is that what the information shows right off the bat by going down several different research paths? No. Now, this can bring up cognitive dissonance within our families because we've heard this story, we believe that this story has got to be true, and we find out maybe it's not. Then you need to process that. And I can tell you for certain that that might take you a very long time if you're not ready to come to terms with the fact that the story is not 100% accurate. Now, in my own family, there was a big family secret about my World War II Navy grandpa. And he spent the last 17 years of his life in a veterans hospital. And it took me a long time before I was able to get his medical records and his military records. And once I did, I learned that he was taken off of his last ship and diagnosed with schizophrenia. That would have created a lot of shame and anger and guilt within the family, and probably something to be hidden from the community. So it was a big family secret because back then, that was not a good thing to be living with, any kind of mental illness. It just showed that you were weak, again, through the historical lens. So we really have to look at things not only through the military record, verify what we think we know, but then also understand the context in which people were living and the propaganda after the war as well of come home, don't talk about it, get a job, get married, have a family, and don't talk about your experience. So then veterans would hold it all inside. Therefore, a lot of stories. And probably none of them thought we would have access to so much of this information today. So, no matter where you find information, but especially if you find it in a newspaper article or somebody's put a find a grave entry together or a blog post or whatever, just do the research because everything can contain errors. If you'd like to know more, click that subscribe button, come take a class, join my newsletter list. Every week I send out resources and articles and tips and all kinds of things to help you move your research forward. And if you have questions, please leave them in the comments.